My name is George Riley. I'm Managing Director of Public Water Now. You know what we're up to. And we haven't officially done anything yet, except unofficially, we do plan on having an initiative on the ballot for November of 2018. It'll be very similar. It'll be quite similar to the last one. We're calling it, just for shorthand purposes, the other one was Measure O. We're calling it Measure H2O. That's not my creation. Somebody else, takes a village. I want to just make sure you know the implications of what it is we're trying to do. I mean, of course, it's to buy Cal-Am, and it's going to be expensive, and it could be controversial, obviously, and it could become expensive, and we don't know where all that's going to go. But we do know that we think it's right, and that's as much on our side as anything. But also, the deeper we dig into Cal-Am's numbers and the costs and so on, the more we learn, the more we feel like this is a no-brainer, guys. This is a no-brainer. And the more facts we get, the more it just seems to me like it's a no-brainer. However, there's work to be done. Is that the next election is going to be in June of 2018. That's the state primary. And there will be some officers. It's a partisan election in June. So congressional seats, state assembly seats, state senator seats, governor seats, state offices, they'll be on the ballot for partisan reasons. You've got a Republican or a Democrat or how many Democrats or whatever. That's the nature of the June election in 2018. In November, it's different. Much bigger election, the runoff for all of the state offices, and every mayor will be running in that race, and half the city councils will be running in that race. And if we're on the ballot on that race, the bellwether issue is going to be, where do you stand on public ownership? And we're telling the mayors that, and we're telling the councilmen that, and we had several meetings this afternoon where a number of people showed up in that category: mayors, city councils, water board members, elected officials. And so we want that to be the issue. And we think it's going to be a no-brainer to them too, as soon as they hear what they need to hear. And so part of what they need to hear is what we have here tonight, and they've been hearing it. So this is an empowering opportunity for us. Missoula, Montana took on a big corporate structure, a giant, and it's not much different than what we're trying to take on. And it takes volunteers, it takes a lot of us. We will be trying to encourage all of you to figure out how you can help. And you can help in small ways, you can help in large ways. But there's always fundraising, and I have to always mention that. But also it's coffee, little reviews in your home, or your little new group, whatever it is. And the group could be 5, it could be 2, it could be 20. But we'll be pushing this issue with your help into the broader community, and we'll need your help for that. So anyway, tonight we have the Missoula team here. When they had a court case that went to their favor about a year ago, somebody let me know about it. I was in telephone contact and so on, so we kept talking and figuring and talking and figuring and planning and how much and how will and so on. They're here. So we're just we're just pleased as punch because they have a success story. And what I want to do is have the mayor come up and explain what their storyline is, and then call on his team to add to it however it wants. We'll go to Q&A at some point, but we'll see how that goes. But you're in for a treat, I got to tell you, because this is a very, very interesting story, and it has far more direct connections to us than you think. Mayor, where are you? Mayor John Engin, thank you.
Thank you, George, very much. So this is an interesting combination of circumstances for me. I'm a politician, and now I'm at a pulpit. It's going to be a long night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Sort of ease into your seats, get comfortable, because we're going to get after it a little bit here. It's a pleasure to visit with you. Want to want to thank Public Water Now for inviting us and for the hospitality we've enjoyed. We flew, three of us flew from, well, two of us flew from Missoula, one flew from Bozeman, another flew from Seattle, and it turns out it requires 19 stops to get from Missoula, Montana to Monterey. 4 days of travel for 1 day of conversation, and we'll begin our journey back this evening. We're actually thinking about just taking an Uber home. It might be a little less complicated. So I have, my name's John Ing, and I serve as the mayor of Missoula, which is a city near Montana. We're a little bit different from the rest of the state, and we like it that way. We come from a place of about 70,000 souls we serve every day, a metro area of about 115 to 120,000 folks. We're home to the University of Montana. We have a relatively thriving healthcare community. We've got a busy downtown. We grow at about 2% a year. And until 2017, we're the only municipality in the state of Montana that did not own and operate its own water system. I will tell you the story about the how, but I think we ought to talk a little bit. One of the things we haven't really talked about today is the why. Why did the city of Missoula pursue ownership of the water system? And for me, it is a fundamental question, and one that our constituents, our citizens, the folks we swore to serve have asked, and we've worked pretty hard to answer. And the fact of the matter is that I and the folks with whom I serve on the Missoula City Council, and I believe the majority of Missoulians believe that water is fundamental, essential, and is a human right, and that human right ought not be controlled by investors who know not where Missoula, Montana is, nor do they care, provided they're seeing a return on that investment. So we're in the business of providing the fundamentals. Local government is about delivering essential services in an effective manner. And the fact that we did not own and operate our water system meant that there was a gap in our provision of essential services, and we sought to close that gap when we saw an opportunity. That opportunity came to us in 2010. I was in my office, and the general manager and president of Mountain Water Company came to see me, along with two representatives from Carlisle Infrastructure Partners, to inform me that Carlisle had signed a deal to purchase Mountain Water, which was part of a 3-system water company, and the provider of water in the city of Missoula. Mountain was part of Park Water. Park Water operated 2 systems in California, one in Apple Valley and one in the Central Basin, Compton, and the Los Angeles County area. Each of those systems generally the same size, serving something on the order of 20,000+ folks. Carlisle purchased that system from a sole proprietor, a fellow who had that system out of Downey, California, a guy named Sam Wheeler. Sam purchased that system. He purchased the Mountain Water piece of that system in the 1970s from the Montana Power Company, a now defunct electric and gas utility. The system was not for sale to the city of Missoula. The city of Missoula had attempted to acquire that system through condemnation in the 1980s and failed. Failed for a number of reasons, not the least of which was that Sam Wheeler was a relatively sympathetic owner. He, we believe, cared about his employees and cared about the communities in which he did business. And one of my predecessors suggested that Mountain Water was bloated, and if the city of Missoula owned the thing, we'd get rid of all the employees and start over. That didn't play well with employees, it didn't play well with the community, and it didn't play well with the courts, and ultimately that effort failed. And in that failure, we also created a lifelong enemy in the form of Mr. Wheeler, who would never, ever consider selling the utility to the city of Missoula if he were to ever sell it. So these folks come to my office, they report that this transaction is afoot, and we immediately begin talking about the fact that we see an opportunity with Carlisle that we didn't see with Mr. Wheeler. That is, Carlisle is in the business of buying and selling stuff. That's what they do all day long, that's how they've made all their money, and that's how they serve their constituents, their investors. So we thought we would have, at some point, a business transaction, and we made that offer. We suggested that we would be very interested in purchasing this system at some point, and the managing director of Carlisle Infrastructure Partners, a fellow named Robert Dove, suggested that that would be a possibility, provided a couple of things happened. One is he needed the support of the city of Missoula in front of the Montana Public Service Commission to approve the transaction. And if he had that support, and a year passed after Mr. Wheeler had served for a year on the board of directors of the newly acquired Park Water, Carlisle would sell that system to us. We went so far as to get a letter agreement with Carlisle, suggesting same that after a bit of a cooling down period, we would be able to make a fair offer to Carlisle. It would be considered in good faith, and we'd own a water company. And during the course of these conversations, we actually met with Carlisle folks in Washington, D.C. Robert Dove put his arm around me in a restaurant that he owned part of, the type of restaurant that I'm usually not allowed to go into. He put his arm around me and he said, "Are you ready to own a water company?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And we began the work that we needed to do to place a value on the company so that we could place a legitimate offer on the table for Carlisle to consider. We assembled a team. We had financial folks, a lot of folks much smarter than I am, who put together an offer of about $65 million. Carlisle purchased that system for $150. We think that each of those operating components represented about a third of the business. So Mountain, they paid roughly $50 million for Mountain. We thought we'd offer 65. They would still turn a profit. We would get a water system at a small premium. They could go about their business and operate systems in California, which they really wanted to do because they sense that the California market is lucrative. And my brief experience here in the peninsula has suggested that that's the case. And so we proceeded, we put an offer on the table, that offer was rejected. I received a letter that that offer had been rejected. We were dumbfounded, we were not prepared for that rejection because we had been operating in good faith. And we were faced with a decision. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the city of Missoula, an opportunity that I don't think would have presented itself again. So our choice was, do we call Carlisle on this breach, and do we pursue purchase of the water company through legal means? And for us, those legal means were manifest in Montana statute, the condemnation statute that allows a municipality to take a water system at fair market value. If we can demonstrate, if we could meet the burden of proof that the city of Missoula, that it was more necessary for the city of Missoula to operate that system than it was for a private company. That's the first threshold. That's what we needed to demonstrate in court. And so in 2014, we filed a condemnation action in district court in Missoula County. And that condemnation action laid out our case. the reasons that we believed it was more necessary for the city of Missoula to own and operate that system. And in 2015, we began a 14-day trial in front of District Judge Karen Townsend, where we presented evidence supporting that case. At the end of those 14 days, Judge Townsend took the item under consideration. She spent a number of months crafting her opinion, and her order came out in June of 2016, ordering that it was indeed more necessary for the city of Missoula to own and operate this system, and she issued a preliminary order of condemnation. A couple things happened during the course of this. One is Carlisle, which had represented itself as a long-term owner, because this infrastructure fund was about providing a long-term quality investment for its investors. Long-term for Carlisle in this case, we were told, was 7 to 10 years. So in year 3-ish, while we were engaged in a condemnation action, while there was a suit filed in district court, Carlisle, without the judge's knowledge or without the knowledge of the Montana Public Service Commission, sold Mountain Water and the two sister companies to a subsidiary of a Canadian investment firm called Algonquin. The subsidiary is called Liberty Utilities. And so, as I say, in the dark of night, Carlisle not only reneged on their deal with the city of Missoula, but they went to a higher bidder. They paid $150 million for the system in 2011, and they sold it in 2015 for $327 million, without making significant investment in any of the facilities. Soak it in, right? We win the condemnation lawsuit. That lawsuit is appealed to the Montana Supreme Court, where that court upholds Judge Townsend's ruling. We proceed to the second phase under Montana law, which is evaluation phase. 3 commissioners are appointed to review evidence about what the fair market value of the company should be. We select one, defendant selects another, and those 2 commissioners select a third commissioner. They hear evidence over the course of 5 days, and they come back a short time after their deliberations, which took a little better than a week, and they came back with a number of $88.6 million. So the city of Missoula would pay now Liberty Utilities $88.6 million for the water system. That valuation verdict was not appealed, but a number of machinations continued. Disagreements over legal fees, because we are the condemning party and we were successful. We owe a portion of attorney's fees. Carlisle asks, Mountain Water, Park Water, Liberty, they ask for $8 million, they get $4 million. There are questions about interest, post-summons improvements, a number of other items. So the litigation continues, and the litigation has continued until last week. And last week, on Friday, I signed a settlement agreement with Liberty Utilities that purchases the system for the $88.6 million, takes care of all legal fees, any outstanding financial issues. A couple are still out there, but direct litigation between Liberty and the city of Missoula goes away, and we get a transition services agreement that allows us to take the system, gather customer data, and have the cooperation of Park so that customer service is uninterrupted and the transition is seamless. So for $96 million, at the end of the day. And by the end of this month, we'll have the keys to Mountain Water Company, and we will no longer be the only city in the state of Montana that doesn't own and operate its own water system.